And no way mean you have to be a perfect person. You can give up trying to be a perfect person. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to stumble, to get angry, to be excited, to annoy people, to be imperfect. You're totally okay as you are. But if you've got very, very negative thinking that's very out of line with the way life is, then that's going to create a lot of pain in you, and you're going to have very strong seeking to be avoiding this moment, and you're not going to be able to hear that this moment is the love that you seek. And I can address that with you as to why you are maybe trying to avoid something, like what ideas and what belief systems and feelings you've got in there which are totally out of line with the way things are. So you've got thoughts that are more in line with the way things are, and thoughts that are really out of line with the way things are. So the thought that life is unfair is really out of line with the way things are. The thought that something's somebody's fault is only a thought for practicality. If someone crashes into your car, you can say it's their fault. But really, there is nobody that can be blamed, because there is nobody. There is only life happening. If you believe that other people should make you happy, this is really out of line with the way things are. If you believe that other people should make you unhappy, that is out of line. Or that they do make you unhappy, that is out of line. Your happiness doesn't come from anything. True happiness is the I am, is presence. But not the human happiness, like you can enjoy one thing over another. Like the human has preferences and likes. So on the human level, what is it that you want? Because as you begin to collapse back into who you truly are, like this seeking energy, this separate energy, this person that's always trying to get somewhere begins to collapse, it's like your wants often become more obvious, and they're like the direct expression from that infinite space. It's like the want is the way that life is moving these bodies. So it's like this want is love. It's not always that way. That might sound like a bit of a simplistic way of putting it, but like, what is it that you want right now? If you ask yourself that, what do I want? And whatever you want, it will happen. Because your body will keep moving towards it, whether you're conscious of it or not. So if you really want freedom, then the body will keep moving towards that. And if you really want to stay where you are, and to just be safe, and to stand still, then that's what will happen. Or humans, I try to say we rather than humans, because I don't like to sound like humans, like I'm pointing my fingers, like blaming anyone. So I try to like put a we, so it's like all of us. But maybe better to say humans. Humans always like to blame and put the blame out there, like the reason that what I want hasn't come is because of my parents, or the reason what I want hasn't come is because of my education, or because of this, or because of that. But if you'd really wanted it, then I think that it would have happened. Like when I left school, just to go on to a story about myself, when I left school, I had a reading age and a writing age of an 8-year-old. And you know, when I was at school, they tried so hard with me to get me to read and write. Not the government-owned schools. The government-owned schools would just sit me at the side and not put any effort into me. But when I went to paid for schools, they had to, because my parents had paid for the school, and they put so much effort into trying to get me to read and write, and I understand why they did, because our society is based on it. But it was so uninteresting to me. It was just, I like to read, but and I like to write actually as well, but the classes were so boring in the way they did it, so I didn't want to participate in those classes, so I didn't really participate in them. But when I left school, I began to get interested in non-duality and Buddhism. And at the time, there wasn't all this free stuff on YouTube. It was really hard to come across this stuff, so I had to read it. I didn't have the money, I was a student, to buy all the CDs I wanted, or the tapes it most probably was then, so I had to actually read. So what I did was I went to the library and I got books from the library with the audiobook, with the accompanying audiobook, and I listened and I read, and I listened and I read, and I taught myself to read over time because I was interested in the subject and I really wanted to read these books, and I wasn't even conscious that I was teaching myself to read. I just did that. So I picked books that had the audio because it was a struggle, and I read the book with the audio, and I taught myself to read really well. And the reason was not because somebody was telling me I had to, or that I had to do this to get enlightened. It was because I was interested in the subject. Like, my heart was there. And even though I'm not saying I am dyslexic, so it's harder for me to read than most people, it's not saying I naturally pick up. My brain doesn't seem to work like that. But when there was the real interest there and the real passion there, then the body did it. When I was at school, there was no interest in doing their classes because they were so uninteresting to me. And so the passion wasn't there and it didn't happen. And it, like, all the things that I've done in my life, I'm 37 now, have required so much reading and so much writing. And the reason that it happened was not because a teacher told me, and it's not, I didn't sit at home and say, this is what society did to me, or this was bad, or get other people to do it. I wanted to do these things, so there was the passion there to do it. And there was a lot of obstacles. I remember the first time I got given a checkbook, I had to go to the post office and write a check for something. I can't remember what I was paying. And in the checkbook, you have to spell out like 1,000 or something, or 100. And I left school with a reading and writing age of 8. So as you can imagine, an 8-year-old doesn't know how to spell 1,000 or 100, or maybe not even 30. And I remember standing there and just was like, well, I can't fill this in because I can't spell it. I don't have an iPhone because iPhones weren't invented there, so I can't check it. So I just had to go up to the lady and ask her to spell it for me. And I'm like 19 years old. And they both laugh. And so I have to deal with that feeling of them laughing. And then I just explain that I'm dyslexic and that I find it hard to spell these words. And could they spell it to me? And I remember them spelling it out to me. And they apologized for laughing. And they were very sweet in the end. And they spelt it out for me. And I wrote my check and I paid in the post office for what it was. But if I hadn't wanted to do all these things, I think I was paying for something like Interrail or something when I was going travelling. If I hadn't wanted to do all these things, it would never have happened. You would never fight something like dyslexia without a passion inside of you. The same with if you're in a wheelchair and you have to want to do all these things. You can't have somebody force you to do them. And everybody has wants of things they want to do. Everybody has their passions. Everyone knows what they love doing. It's just we kind of got compressed into being told what we have to do. And I've had to put myself in so many vulnerable situations, admitting to people I can't spell. I can't read things. And I just go there and honestly say it. I can't read this. I don't know what this says. I mean, everybody's seen it, me do it on YouTube, on live stream, where I can't read somebody's name or I can't read what they've written to me. And it's like your wants are like a gift from the divine. It's the way this instrument's orchestrated. Just like all other animals. Like Khaleesi is a perfect hunter. She's so good at hunting. Her body knows how to do things. But when we've been by society told we have to do all these things and we have to take responsibility and we have to do these certain jobs to look after this or do this or all this mind stuff, we begin to compress ourselves and we feel more and more uncomfortable, and so our seeking gets more and more intense. We seek for relief in time, and then it makes us feel more and more unhappy, and we get into these really negative thought processes.